everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our presentation, The History and Legacy of Altadena's Black Community. So tonight's event is a part of a monthly lecture series and social hour that's proudly presented in collaboration with Pasadena Heritage, Altadena Heritage, the Altadena Historical Society, and the Bungalow Heaven Neighborhood Association, along with the Foothill Catalog Foundation. Huge thank you again to the Altadena Library for hosting us. Also, I want to extend a special thank you to our food sponsor for tonight. I know it's all gone already, but hopefully you guys got to enjoy a beautiful spread from neighbors and friends down in Pasadena, sponsored by LA Fire Justice. And so we're honored to have Chris Holden here with us today. Along with the LA Fire Justice team, are here in support of this community. Chris, as many of you know, is local to the Pasadena-Altadena area and formerly served in the California State Assembly for the 41st District. And he is here tonight and will be afterwards for if anyone has any questions for him. Would just like to say hello and thank you again for your generosity and for helping us make tonight possible. So this monthly lecture series is dedicated to exploring the unique history and diversity of our community here in Altadena. Through engaging talks from historians, preservationists, local voices, we aim to bring attention to the many stories, some are well known and some are lesser known, that have shaped this neighborhood. Whether you're a lifelong resident, a newcomer, or a building professional curious about restoration and preservation efforts, this series is for all of us. It's an opportunity to learn, connect, and celebrate what makes this place so special. So a quick update from us at the Foothill Catalog for our homeowners here tonight. We've been working hard over the past few weeks to refine our process and crowdsource concept designs for our catalog from architects and designers from all over the country. Some exciting news actually also wrapped up the first plan to be submitted as a pre-approval to the county today. And will be announcing the launch of their pre-approval program, which is a new way to permit that did not exist prior to this. And they're going to be announcing the launch of this program tomorrow, I believe, at a webinar that they're hosting, just a general rebuilding webinar. But then on May 3rd, there's going to be a dedicated webinar for the pre-approval process with LA County and the Foothill Catalog. If you'd like to tune in, we'll make sure we get information on that out there. We will also be hosting a concept design showcase on May 4th. You might have seen some flyers up at the front. It's going to be at 1 to 4 p.m. at the Sierra Madre Women's Club. So we're going to be showcasing some of our initial concept designs. You can come and give your feedback, ask any questions, learn more about our process and meet our team. And it's an open house format, so you can come and go and stop by as you please. And of course, today, feel free to stay afterwards, we have a couple people from our team here, so if you have any questions, just come say hi. So that's enough about us. Tonight, we're going to focus on the invaluable contributions of African Americans to Altadena's development and culture. So we're going to be featuring key findings from the Altadena African American Historic Resources Survey, which was conducted by the County of Los Angeles. This presentation will highlight the people, places, and narratives that have been too often been left out of the mainstream record, and we're honored to bring these stories to light and share in a meaningful conversation about heritage and community. So to introduce next month's topic and our speakers for tonight, I'd like to turn the mic over to Bridget. She is the Preservation Director at Pasadena Heritage.
Thank you, Cynthia. So our next installment of this lecture series, Altadena Revealed, will be actually taking place at Pasadena Heritage at the Blinn House. So mark your calendars for May 30th. 7 p.m. is when doors will open. 7:30 is when the programming will start. We received word that we will be having Altadena Green do the next installment. So talking about the natural environment versus the built environment in this next series, part of the series. Now on to our, because that's why you're here tonight, on to our wonderful speakers that we have. So we are really proud to welcome 3 really exceptional individuals whose knowledge and passion and dedication, really bring this history to life. So first we have Steven McCall, who is a longtime resident of Pasadena and Altadena area, and a dedicated volunteer across multiple historical and cultural organizations. As board chair of the Los Angeles Conservancy and a docent for both the Conservancy and Los Angelitas del Pueblo, Steven brings history to the public with insight and enthusiasm. He recently became a certified docent naturalist and now serves as the board secretary of the Altadena Historical Society. Next up we have Carrie Chasteen, and she is a principal architect and historian with more than 23 years of experience in historic preservation. With a master's in historic preservation, Carrie has led efforts to protect, identify, and interpret cultural resources across Southern California. Her ability to blend rigorous research with storytelling brings depth to the history of the built environment. And last but certainly not least, Veronica Jones, who is a lifelong Altadena resident, community advocate, and former Altadena Town Council member. Now president of the Altadena Historical Society, Veronica is known for her tireless efforts to evaluate underrepresented voices and uncover the hidden histories that make Altadena what it is today. Please join me in welcoming Steven, Carrie, and Veronica.
Good evening, and thank you for having us. The Altadena Historical Society initiated efforts to document the cultural history of the Altadena African American community by conducting oral interviews and preparing and publishing articles called The Hidden Histories. Both of these efforts sought to identify important events, persons, businesses, and other sites and objects of historical significance. In 2020, County Regional Planning initiated the Altadena African American Historic Resources Survey, which was the first comprehensive survey of this type for this area. The 2020 survey not only identified historically significant events and persons, but also businesses and other cultural institutions such as churches and schools that have played a significant role in the history of the Altadena African American community. Extensive public outreach was conducted and public involvement was encouraged to ensure the document thoughtfully recorded histories and made eligibility findings for resources determined to be significant through the process. Recommendations for further study were made, and the collected reference materials were donated to the Historical Society's archives. A question we often get is what attracted the African American community to Altadena? California and Los Angeles County were established in 1850. The Homestead Act was passed in 1862. These were two of many events that triggered migration from the East Coast. The railroads connected communities, states, and the nation, and brought entrepreneurial individuals and families west in search of opportunities to own land and other pursuits of wealth. The Homestead Act allowed persons to claim a stake of land who would gain ownership by working the land and improving it over a period of years. During the mid to late 1800s, the Pasadena area also became a health refuge, allowing respite from tuberculosis and other respiratory illnesses worsened by the harsh winter climate of the Midwest and the East Coast. This is a map of Altadena as planned in 1887. In the first half of the 1900s, restrictive racial covenants dictated property ownership by race and religion. Based upon documents stored at the Historical Archives that you can see here on the right, up to 60% of Altadena was not subject to restrictive covenants by the late 1930s. However, the Altadena Property Owners League was formed in 1939 in an effort to bring all of Altadena under restricted covenants. Growth in Western Altadena was significant following the end of World War II and after the Supreme Court ruled for fair housing in the Shelley versus Kramer case in 1948. Although unofficial enforcement of the covenants through other forms of discrimination continued into the 1950s, Western Altadena experienced the same real estate boom as the rest of Southern California at that time, which resulted in homeownership being more equitably distributed amongst underrepresented communities. Many African Americans and their families left the South to escape Jim Crow laws and moved to California for new opportunities, a movement that is commonly known as the Great Migration. The Great Migration contributed to the growth of the African American community in Altadena. All of this is to say there are many reasons people were attracted to the area in general, and yet we still have not discovered a definitive reason for what attracted the African community to this area. However, Ellen Garrison Clark, Earl Grant, and Robin Owens are some of the first persons noted in Altadena that played a significant role in the establishment and growth of this vibrant community.
Thank you, Carrie. Now that you have so expertly explained how the survey came into existence and given us a little background on the survey and the outline of the survey, and really established the importance of this document. This was a seminal document that laid a groundwork for further study of the African American community. So with that started, Veronica and I now will start by spotlighting three notable African American pioneers in Altadena's history. And the first of which is Mr. Robert Owens. Photograph here, this is El Prieto Canyon over near JPL. Some of you may have hiked over down that canyon. So along with the respectable Citizens Low-Life organization, recently there was a monument installed.
Owen Brown.
No, Robert Owen. Different Owen. This is Robert Owen. There was a monument established earmarking the canyon in name of Robert Owens. But here's his story. He was born into slavery in Texas in 1806. He worked out an arrangement with his enslaver to buy his freedom by working on the side and splitting the extra income with his enslaver. Robert Owens successfully bought his freedom and moved to California in 1853. No, it's okay. So Owen settled in the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains near JPL and La Cañada in what is known today as El Prieto Canyon. And El Prieto means dark one in Spanish. Owen started a lumber business with a contract with the U.S. Army to supply firewood and wood for railroad ties. Owen hauled lumber from the National Forest to Los Angeles. He actually built a road from the canyon and hauled the wood down the canyon and into LA. Eventually, he was able to save enough money to buy the freedom of his wife, Winnie, and their 3 children, and relocated them all to California. Owens was known as a hardworking, thrifty, and religious man, and who was also known to carry around a well-used pocket Bible. And even though Owens and Winnie were considered mountain folk, they were highly esteemed generally and often affectionately referred to as Uncle Bob and Aunt Winnie. Here's the most important thing about Robert Owens. Well, one of the many important things. He started investing in real estate, buying cheap vacant land which increased in value and growth with the city's growth. His real estate endeavors were so successful that upon his death in 1865, he was reputedly one of the richest black men in California, if not the entire country. Along with his real estate protege, Biddy Mason, some of you may know that story, Owens was a pillar of the African American community, not only in Altadena, but also Pasadena and Los Angeles. So this is the shot that I wanted to show you. This is me and Veronica and Eric Hilliard from the Low Life's Respectable Citizens Club, scouting out the spot where the monument for Robert Owens would be placed. So That is one of our first early pioneers. Next, we move on to Ellen Garrison Clark.
Good evening, and thank you for being here. Ellen Garrison Clark is just someone that means a lot to me. I wear her pin often. Ellen was an African-American woman. She's the daughter of slaves. Her father was a slave in Concord, Massachusetts, where she was born. She had been buried in the Altadena Mountain View Cemetery since 1892 until Juneteenth 2021. In Juneteenth 2021, that was the first official federal Juneteenth holiday. The Historical Society, yes. The Altadena Historical Society, the Black community from all across the country, as far away as Germany, raised money to give Ellen a headstone. So we were able to lay her a headstone, and she had been there almost 200 years without a headstone in an unmarked grave. And we had a little trouble finding her, but we found her once we knew she was there. Mrs. Clark came to Altadena and the Pasadena area, and we believe that she came here and taught blacks to read and write. During that time, it was illegal to teach blacks to read and write. So she's been doing things a very long time, long before Rosa Parks. She brought a federal court case to the federal court because she would not give up her seat in a segregated train court, I guess you call where you sit in the train. She wouldn't give up her seat. So she did that long before Rosa Parks. That was thrown out of the courts, but we don't forget it, and it is in the federal court records that she did that. Each year, the Altadena Historical Society raises money to give out scholarships in her name. And 2 years ago, the Questers and the Historical Society, we have a Quester here today. She's here. They help us bring more money in for Ellen Garrison Clark. We were able to put 2 more headstones on her husband and her sister's grave. So, and every Juneteenth, we raise money to give out 2 scholarships to PUSD students in her name. Did, and we appreciate that she was there for us to read and write, and she believed in, as we put on her headstone, we must lift as we climb. So as we move up, we need to bring others with us. Very recently, her hometown of Concord, Massachusetts raised over $20,000 for the Historical Society because of the fire. And they've never even been here, and they raised that money for us and sent it to us. The Questers gave us $5,000 in the name of Ellen Garrison Clark. So Ellen keeps giving. She keeps giving, and she keeps educating us. So thank you.
All right, moving on. Thank you, Veronica. Moving on to Mr. M. Earl Grant. Mr. Earl M. Grant was a prominent African-American businessman in Altadena and throughout LA County. Grant was born in 1881 in West Virginia and moved to Pasadena in 1923. By 1924, he owned and operated the Altadena Disposal Company. In addition, Grant started a hog farm in El Monte from 1927 to 1952, which sold up to $10,000 worth of hogs per day. That's a lot of pork. After being denied loans by Pasadena to buy Pasadena properties because of the color of his skin, he went on to found Broadway Federal Bank in 1947. He didn't stop there. In 1949, he founded and managed the Watts Savings and Loan from 1950 to 1967. As if that weren't enough, he was also the head of Family Savings and Loan, and some of you probably know the Family Savings and Loan. It was one of the biggest black-owned savings and loan firms in the country. I'm tired of reading this already. He had a fruit ranch in Fresno and many other business ventures. He was also listed as one of the 100 richest Negroes in the United States in the 19 May 1962 issue of Ebony magazine. Now, this Altadena disposal company that Grant established was located at 603 Athens Street in Altadena. Yeah, somebody, you guys know that?
Yep.
Okay. It was a general garbage collection business that hauled and disposed of trash throughout LA County. The precursor to UWX. Probably, yeah, right. At that time, this was the only public collection system of this area in the county. It was the oldest garbage collection business operating in the Altadena area. By the 1940s, the company moved 30 tons of trash per day. Again, a lot of trash. And the garbage disposal industry allowed Grant to network with other powerful businessmen, which helped him to achieve many great accomplishments in the business world. That's M.O. Grant. So now we're going to move on to a different category. These are early entrepreneurs. We're going to focus on Walker's Pharmacy and Dr. Isaac Walker, and one that many of you may have frequented, the Little Red Hen Coffee Shop, and its founder, Miss Rena Shea.
Okay, Dr. Isaac Walker. And you talk about generational people here in Altadena. Well, Dr. Walker's family still lives in Altadena, and his daughter's here today. Do you want to stand? Dr. Isaac Walker lived and worked in Altadena for over 45 years. Dr. Walker owned and operated the first Black-owned pharmacy in Altadena. Is anybody here ever went to Walker's Pharmacy? I did. Yes, I did. I had a son that had asthma, and I can remember calling him in the middle of the night because I needed to get medicine for my son. And he was open enough to give it to me. I mean, we can't do that today. He was my neighbor, and he knew. So for over 30 years, it was located on Lincoln and Altadena Drive. The pharmacy was Walker's Drugs. He also was in the military. He was in Army Air Force. He was in the Army Air Forces and became one of the celebrated Tuskegee Airmen in 1944. He served in World War II. In 1944, the Tuskegee Airmen, it was a segregated U.S. Army Air Corps. And he went on to graduate from Howard University School of Pharmacy in 1956 and went on to receive his doctorate from USC in 1962. He helped many Altadena and Pasadena residents by offering reduced cost medicines and sometimes providing medicine at no cost. If the patient had no money and no insurance, he made sure you still got enough to get you over to the next, till you could get some money and some insurance. He kept you going. He paid school tuition for neighborhood kids. He even covered the expenses for one of our neighbors' funerals due to the family's inability to pay for the funeral. His positive outlook was infectious and brightened the lives of all who came into contact with him. He was symbolic of the residents of Altadena, just a good person, just like people in Altadena are.
Let's move on to the Little Red Hen Coffee Shop and the Shea family legacy. The Little Red Hen has been part of Altadena's landscape for well over 60 years. The last 50 years it's been owned and operated by an African-American family, the Shea family. Miss Rena Shea purchased the restaurant in 1972 from Doris Wendell. There's Doris Wendell, and it's been passed down from generation to generation. Mrs. Shea became an entrepreneur back in the day when women were not encouraged to be business owners, and especially not black business owners. There were barriers to obtaining small business loans for African Americans that endured into the early 70s. However, this did not deter Ms. Shea. She purchased the business with money she saved from her soap finishing business and contributions from family members, and that helped her to pay for the restaurant. She worked at the restaurant for over 30 years and was a role model for her 12 children who paved the way for them to become independent business owners in their own right. The Little Red Hen provided a community meeting place for ideas and for information to be shared. Mrs. Shea retired in the late 80s, and her son, Lonzia Shea, took over the business. After the passing of Mr. Shea, his sister Barbara now operates the business, operates the restaurant, and has added a contemporary flair to the traditional comfort food, and there are even vegan options to do. There's Barbara Shea. Okay, and you may notice that I'm using the present tense, but we'll get to where Little Red Hen is today. But in any event, the coffee shop remains pretty much as it did 50 years ago. It's the image of a local diner with red stools and a counter, and when one enters, you immediately feel the charm and the comfort and the warmth. It's not a fast food place, but a place to take a moment and enjoy the simple life that living in Altadena can bring. And it was and remains one of the oldest owned Black businesses in Altadena. She talks about the restaurant and how she got started and how she learned how to cook from her mother, and how people would come from the neighborhood. Different celebrities would come in, Red Fox and others would come into the restaurant, and it just became a community meeting place over the years. And she was, and is such a good steward of her mother's legacy, the Miss Rena Shea. So here's another picture of the whole Shea family, and you can see it's quite a legacy. And then, unfortunately, the Little Red Hen did not survive the fire. And so this is actually a picture of Barbara and her daughter today, or currently. And unfortunately, that is what's left, or what was left of the Little Red Hen coffee shop. I understand the site's been cleared, and so you probably wouldn't even be able to point it out. But I'm told that the Shays have vowed to return. So. One of the things in the video that comes up is there's a cartoon on the wall in the coffee shop, and it's a cartoon of Mickey Mouse talking with a little red hen. So that's one of the favorite pieces of artwork that was in the restaurant. And the artist this gentleman is Floyd Norman. And Floyd Norman was interested because he walked into the Disney lot straight out of high school and asked animators if he could work there someday. And the animators took time to share with him about the studio and encouraged him to go to school, which he did. He attended Pasadena Art Center. After graduating in '57, Norman was hired by Walt Disney Studios and worked there continuously and was named a Disney legend in 2007. Like his favorite character of all time, Mickey Mouse, Mr. Norman is a classic. And now in his 80s, he often can be seen regularly on the Disney lot, mentoring and encouraging the next generation of artists. He's often quoted as saying, "Today work is more like fun, I get paid to play."
Hello, my name is Alan Shea. I'm a child of 13 children that we moved here from Jackson, Mississippi. For the quality of life that we ultimately experienced here in Altadena, that is phenomenal. And if I may ask a lot of my classmates to stand up who made this possible, from Judge Drew, who's here. He came with me, Chris Holden, who was part of my era. All these inspired us to be staples here so we can make sure that as we are challenged, we are strong, and we have leaders like this incredible woman who mentored me to go and stay in line with politics, if I may ask, to make sure that we all stay relevant. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank you for this historic journey. So thank you.
artists and activists. We're gonna talk about Lieutenant Oliver Goodall, Charles White, Bob Lucas, and someone you may not recognize, or name you may not recognize, but is very notable, Clarence Jones. So we're going to start out with Lieutenant Oliver Goodall.
Lieutenant Oliver Goodall was a civic leader well known in the Altadena community. Goodall entered the U.S. Army Air Corps in 1943 before becoming part of the Tuskegee Airmen. In 2010, the NAACP honored Goodall with their Rosa Parks Legacy Award. He played a key role in the Freeman Field Mutiny, where a group of 60 black officers refused to use the segregated black soldiers' quarters, thus sparking a movement for the integration of the armed forces. He lived right here in Altadena. This provided a model for future civil rights efforts. Lieutenant Goodall lived in Altadena for over 50 years and significantly impacted the community as an activist. He became well known within the Altadena community and continuously worked to help he would say this, help the ones that come after you. In January 2020, a plaque was laid at his former home in Altadena. The plaque reads in part, Lieutenant O. Oliver Goodall lived at 679 West Harriet Street from 1961 until his death in 2010, and made a powerful impact on his adopted community of Altadena and Pasadena. In addition to contributing to elevating the dignity and civil rights of African Americans in this country. So here are some photographs from that day. The Rotary Club was instrumental in putting that plaque in front of the current owner who lives there is Eugene Hutchins. He's here tonight. Eugene? So along with a committee of other Altadena residents and the Rotary Club, so that was laid there during February 16, 2020. And also there's the post office, the Pasadena post office is named after Oliver Goodall. Yeah, because it's a Renaissance building and they named that post office after him. So thank you. We're going to move on to Charles White.
Okay, so Charles White, whose son Ian still lives in the Netherlands, was a celebrated 20th century artist and painter who documented the struggles of the African Americans and his generation. By the way, is Ian, are you out there? Okay, all right. In the decades after World War II, thousands of African Americans, as Carrie mentioned, migrated to Southern California as part of what was dubbed the Great Black Migration. And in October 1956, the White family was part of that migration. In California, they first found a home in Pasadena on Summit Avenue. Some of you may know where that is. And the following year, the White family moved to Altadena to 936 Kent Street, very close to Oak Grove Park, which at that time was a predominantly white community. And for some odd reason, that prompted people to move. In 1963, the Whites bought an acre of hillside land in Altadena, the Meadows, which we'll get into a little bit more later, where they started to build a home. Sometime around 1966, the White family moved into their new home on Rising Hill Road in Altadena. Mr. White began teaching at Otis Art Institute, and now it's now called Otis College of Art and Design. He was the first black artist to join the all-white faculty. In 1977, he was appointed a full professor and chair of the drawing department at Otis Art Institute. In '78, Governor Edmund G. Brown appointed him to the advisory board of the new California Museum of African American History and Culture, which is now the California African American Museum. Charles White died of congestive heart failure on October 3rd, 1979 at the young age of 61. At his memorial, his longtime friend, Sidney Poitier, said of Mr. White, quote, "Charlie was no angel in life, and I bet he's no angel now." That was Sidney. Okay, in October 1980, the County of Los Angeles dedicated a park in Altadena in his honor, Charles White Park. And I understand that some parts of the park burned, but basically some of the buildings, some of the newer buildings burned, but mostly it's intact. So, and that brings us to this, one of Charles White's works, which, Veronica, do you want to share your story?
Even though I lived in Altadena and Charles White lived in Altadena, I never saw an original painting, or he used chalk. So I never saw an original work until I visited the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. And it was during COVID, and they let me into the gallery. You only could go in one at a time. And as I entered the gallery, there's this huge drawing that Charles White did. And I thought, I came all the way to Washington, D.C. to see an original drawing. And it really made that visit just very special to know that he lived in my community.
All right, thank you, Veronica. Now we move on to William Bob Lucas. So a lot of you assembled here obviously know Bob Lucas and his association with the Altadena branch, the Bob Lucas Library. Mr. Bob Lucas was well known in the community as a journalism pioneer, writer, photographer, and activist. He was a member of the Altadena community for 19 years. He worked as a writer for the Los Angeles Sentinel and Johnson Publications' Ebony and Jet. And some of you may remember Ebony and Jet. He also worked for the Los Angeles Sentinel, which was founded in 1933. The Johnson Publications was founded in 1942. All three publications were owned and run by African Americans. Bob Lucas became one of the first well-known African American writers in the 40s and 50s. He was successful writing for both newspapers and television. He moved to Los Angeles after traveling to the city with Life magazine photographer, the esteemed Gordon Parks, who was also a renowned musician, writer, and film director. So the Lucas moved from Los Angeles to Altadena in '71 and resided here until his death in 1990. So Mr. Lucas was a literacy advocate. He helped establish the Bob Lucas Altadena Library branch, which is named after him. It's on the west side, and it was so placed to ensure that the African American community would have access to services. The Bob Lucas Library is currently closed for renovation, but I'm told on good authority that it should be opening by the summer of this year, sometime. So this is some members of the Lucas family at the 30th anniversary ceremony of the reopening of the library in October 2021. And in that group assembled, Tony and Maureen Ward and their children are in that group. And Tony's mom, Shirley, was present, I believe, also, and she recently passed at 101. Shirley Ward and Bob Lucas were first cousins. And so that's quite a family legacy, and we are honored to have Maureen and Tony Ward here with us tonight. I must say as an aside that in addition to, walking very religiously every day at an accelerated pace, Tony and Maureen are for years did a yeoman's job of helping the lights come up on Christmas Tree Lane. Time to time, but and also there is another person here tonight that's part of the Christmas Tree Lane, or was part of the Christmas Tree Lane crew that was really responsible for making it work. It's Lucinda Hackinson. Lucinda.
Okay. Clarence Jones, it's someone I personally got to interview. He was born on January 8th, 1931 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He is a legal advisor, speechwriter, and civil rights leader. He's still alive. He served as a major fundraiser and organizer for the civil rights movement. His parents, Mary and Gold Shore Jones, were live-in domestics. So he grew up in foster homes and attended a Catholic boarding school in eastern Pennsylvania. It was run by the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament. He was drafted into the U.S. Army during the Korean War. However, he refused to sign a loyalty oath at that time, and he was discharged as a national security risk due to the left-wing political activities as a college student. Undeterred, he went on to earn his BA from Columbia University in 1956. In 1959, he obtained his law degree from Boston University School of Law. Mr. Jones lived right down the street off of Mariposa here. Martin Luther King came to his home off of Mariposa to recruit him to work with him in his civil rights movement. He moved to Altadena to pursue a law practice in entertainment and intellectual property. The following year after he moved here, he joined the forces of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to defend Dr. King against charges of fraud brought by the state of Alabama. After Dr. King's acquittal, Dr. Jones moved to Harlem, New York to work with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Dr. Clarence B. Jones is the co-author of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s 1973 I Have a Dream speech, and he also worked on the letters from Birmingham. At 36, Jones became the first African American to be named an ally member of the New York Stock Exchange. He's a scholar in residence at the Martin Luther King Jr. Institute at Stanford University today. In 2021, he was featured in our Altadena Neighbors magazine. Deb Habestad, who's here tonight, is the coordinator for the Altadena, the content coordinator for the Altadena Neighbors magazine, and that's how I got to interview Dr. Jones. And Dr. Jones, 2 years ago, he was in a Super Bowl commercial. So, and he's in his 90s now, but he's still going strong. He told me, I always remember he said this, he said, the nuns taught him that he was beautiful, he was smart, and he could do anything he wanted to do. Wow. So I felt that
Okay, so moving on to a special recognition of Mr. William Galloway and the Galloway family. William B. Galloway was born to Jewel and Ira B. Galloway in August 1941 in Mound, Oklahoma. Bill attended junior high school at John Muir High School. Was there for John Muir? And Pasadena City College. Mr. Galloway served in the U.S. Army from 1966 to 68 and was assigned to a military intelligence division in Saigon, Vietnam for 1 year. After his tour of service after the last tour of service at Fort Bragg, he moved to North Carolina and met his wife Brenda. Bill and Brenda built a beautiful life in California. Their 54-year marriage resulted in 2 sons, 6 grandchildren, and a great-grandson. He received numerous awards over his career, including awards from the Pasadena Museum of History, Pasadena Police Foundation, the NAACP, the Development Corporation, and the PCC Black Faculty Union, and Habitat for Humanity. He was also a member of the John Muir Hall of Fame and was recognized as Pasadena City College's at the 75th anniversary as one of the 75 distinguished alumni. If that were not enough, Bill and Brenda donated to charity both locally and nationally. They established Galloway Plaza and a sculpture garden at Pasadena City College, which is the first facility bear named for an African American. This giant of a philanthropist and businessman died on March 1st, 2023. And as Veronica likes to remind me, his real estate company, his corporation, owned that part of Mariposa that was known as Millionaires Row. And there used to be a lot of black businesses on that stretch of Mariposa, along with the hardware store, which wasn't black owned, but there was a dry cleaner, dry cleaner was there, and also there was a beauty supply store there, and Miss Dragon is still there, and so it was a major source of revenue for the county and a major source of income and employment for the area. So we'd like to give a hand to the they've gotten a lot of due respect over the years. Last year, the Rotary and the Library Foundation honored them at the Taste of Gina celebration here at the library.
So in addition to these amazing stories of events and people and businesses, we also looked at potential historic districts as part of the 2020 survey. Through the research and public outreach efforts conducted for the 2020 study prepared for the county, 2 neighborhoods were identified as being eligible for listing in the county register as historic districts. The 2 neighborhoods were the Meadows and the Sench. The Meadows is one of the first African-American middle-class neighborhoods in the county. The Meadows is located north of West Altadena within the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains. The Davis-Baker Company subdivided the land above the fog and the smog in the 1950s and began selling model homes designed by Beacon Homes. The Meadows started off as predominantly white, but in the late 1950s and early 1960s, middle and upper middle class African-American families started moving in and the white residents moved out. According to a local resident, the first African-American family to move into the area in the late 1950s was the Sheets family. In the following years, more black residents chose the quiet and isolated area as home, including families such as Charles White, which was previously mentioned. In 1972, the first neighborhood watch group in Altadena was formed by resident Joseph Sharon in the area called the Sench, which stood for the streets it patrolled on the west side of Altadena, including Sacramento Street, El Sol Street, Neldham Street, Casita Street, and Hanning Avenue. And I'm not being remiss by not acknowledging the family. You have to wait for the next slide. According to the association's bylaws, its purpose was to eliminate crime, create unity among neighbors, improve the overall physical appearance of the neighborhood, and instill pride of the people in the community. The group worked to ensure the neighborhoods that were forming as black neighborhoods stayed physically appealing, united, and low in crime rates. Door-to-door contact and conversations with neighbors made sure that one could point to the area as not as blighted, and furthered integration efforts. The Dots on the Map campaign a decade earlier highlighted this area as one of which welcomed integration and a prominent black community around the streets, which the group patrolled. The Dots on the Map was a campaign where they sent out flyers and you could pull off the card and write your name in it if you supported having neighbors of a different color next door. The watch group made such a name for itself for creating a safe space. New black residents wanted to live in the Sench, and 2 real estate agents selling in the area had a wait list for people wanting to move into the neighborhood. The Neighbor Watch group continues to this day.
Oh, okay, Cinch. Cinch is my neighborhood. Cinch is where I live. Cinch was started by Carlotta Martin's father. Carlotta is in this picture right here. Carlotta is in her, I don't know, I went to her 80th birthday party a while ago, so I don't know how old she is today, but you'll see her around. She's very active in our community, and she makes sure that our community stays safe and strong. It's a real strong neighborhood watch group. They're very strong, and they have the supervisor's phone number on speed dial. So something happens, and I think some of them are here tonight. If you're in Cinch, please stand. I know I saw you guys. Oh, they're in the back. Yeah, they said. The area where blacks were allowed to live when they first came to Altadena. The red line didn't start, it started west of Lake, and Cinch is west of Lincoln. So we built a community, and we still have that community, and it's still strong. We have a really nice community with Cinch starting over 60 years ago. So,
a slide if you want to take a snapshot of that before we get some deeper knowledge about the Black history in Altadena. But this whole presentation, we don't intend this to be dispositive or exhaustive. It's just the tip of the iceberg, some selected individuals. There's a whole category of artists and musicians that we could do another hour on, and architects as well. And so, this is an ever-evolving program, and maybe you'll catch another iteration of it in the future. But so, thank you all for coming. Thank
you to the Foothill Catalog Foundation for doing this, and thank you to our beautiful library staff for allowing us to be here, and thank you to all you beautiful people for being here and helping to give all our hidden histories a voice. Thank you.